Welcome to Bitcoin Escape Plan. What do I think the price of Bitcoin is going to be at the end of 2025? Watch this video and you'll find out. As always, let's start off the video with a 4-hour chart analysis. Let's take a look. This is over on Monday. This is the most recent lows on Monday, much higher, you will remember, than over there last week. So we came down to this key fib pivot, 4784.7. As you can see, the closing candles were pretty much right on top of it. That gave us enough permission to go back to this 86.5K pivot that we had failed before after losing the SMA coming into the week on Sunday. We have now reclaimed it, which is great. That happened on Tuesday. And then as you can see, once we got over to Wednesday, it was mostly flat, but slightly ascending, which is good because what do we need to see? In the higher time frames, we need to see 96K. That's where we need to get to, as well as this guy right here, the anchored VWAP, which I've talked about a million times on Threads. So what would I be watching in the next 4 to 16 hours? We're going to want to see a retest of 94.4. Obviously, you can see we've wicked close to it, but haven't been able to reach it yet. So that's going to be the first major target that we're going to need to see some volume return to. If we fail that, we're going to go back to this 92.6-ish region that we spent most of the day at, climbed all the way to yesterday. And that's pretty much it for the next couple hours. So, topic of the video, realistic price predictions for Bitcoin in 2025. Now, I'm going to start off with just kind of explaining my overview for how I came to these numbers. I did have someone say that I say too many numbers in these videos. I don't know how the fuck to say less numbers in a Bitcoin analysis video, but I'll do my best. So my original targets that I've been saying since literally the dawn of time, and by the dawn of time, I mean since here when I was making public Instagram stories about it, November of 2022. The highest that I said at that time that I believe we can actually go for Bitcoin, hold on, let me try this again, is about here, about 210 to 240. That's the highest I can possibly believe. Now, a lot has changed since that time to make me no longer believe that that is possible in 2025. So the numbers that I had was conservative estimate was 130 to 150K, and a bullish estimate was 180 to 210K. That was the highest that I believed that it could possibly go. So technically, 126, wherever that is right there, that we went to before, which, what does this say? The exact high, 126.2, is very close to what I had said. Very close to 130. It's only another, 5% basically to 130. So being 5% off of a number that I said in November of 2022, it's not that bad. That being said, I do still think realistically we are going to end the year below 107.6. I would be very surprised if we're going to get above 107.6. There's a number of reasons why I feel that way, but most importantly, we have very few reactions to the monthly SMA. This is the 20-week. That's what I use. We have very few. All of them are important. This guy over here, we didn't get to it. We got to have another higher high. This time over here, we touched it, we ranged for a little bit, and then we properly gave it up for adoption and went into the bear market. And that is what I think is probably going to happen now. So we're probably going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 months where it just kind of chops. It just kind of chops in here, where we are lucky to get higher than up here. And that would be December, January, February, and then it would probably start descending after that. That's my base case. Now, there's a number of reasons why this is possibly not what is going to occur. Mostly that SPY and gold are not done running yet. The thing that I think people are overestimating in their analysis is the Fed meeting next week about whether or not they're going to have more rate cuts. And I believe that they've already announced that they have ended quantitative tightening and are in the process of quantitative seasoning. So what I really want to say is like long term, super bullish for Bitcoin. Long term, super bullish. But I just think we need to be realistic in the short term that there is a higher probability that we are going to chop and then go down than there is of us, chopping and going higher. Let me try can I draw? Oh, interesting. Never done that before. So that's what I think is going to happen. Realistically, is that we're probably going to chop a little bit and then drop is the most likely what I think is going to happen. Versus, I don't think we're going to have that. I think it's very unlikely that we're going to have that in the next couple of months. It just doesn't make a lot of sense from everything that we've seen in this market cycle. It makes more sense that we're going to be range bound between these levels for a while. That was the same for over here. We were range bound from levels that we had tested previously. So realistically, I think that's probably where we're going to touch again. That'll be the bottoming is over there. So my realistic price prediction for the end of 2025, I would assume Bitcoin's probably going to be very close to where it is right now, which I know is not what you guys want to hear, but it's probably going to be very close to 93, 94. I think it's going to attempt to get higher during this time right now. Like it really wants. Why do you keep coming back, drawings? I did not tell you to come back. Jesus, what the fuck? Oh, that's why I have it on the wrong thing. Okay, freedom. There we go. So us breaking the monthly or the daily SMA is good. It's good news, but you got to look at it in context. We've broken it plenty of times, and it was still flat and not really going anywhere. Even though these are highs, they're highs, and it can barely stay above it. There are plenty of times. Oh my god, why am I tired? Plenty of times this year where we spent below it. We spent most of the year below it. If you really look at it, we spent so much time below it, and then short periods where we were pumping above it. That's last year. It's not even this year. So we've spent a good portion of the year below the daily SMA, including this long stretch that we've been in here. So to be above it is not trivial, but it's not enough information for us to say with definitive proof that we're going back here or higher. Just nothing really indicates that to us. Same for this. On the weekly time frame, we're way below the SMA. As you can see, we spend much less time below the SMA over the course of the year. This is the most pronounced time that we've spent, the longest period of weeks that we have now spent below it. Over here was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-ish. And we are currently, since the actual testing of it and the breaking of it, which I'll put at this guy, even though technically it was over here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, and we're still nowhere near that. Still nowhere near 108.9, 109-ish. That I would assume would take another 2 weeks at minimum if we were going to make another attempt at the weekly SMA at this time. And, if we're looking back at previous cycles, when we had a prolonged series like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 weeks, long ass time that we were below it. Same as this period. This is probably 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks. So it's not impossible for us to spend that much time and still come to a higher high. But that time that we had that, again, it didn't touch the monthly SMA. It kept going. Over here, when it broke, then it really broke. And that's what we're currently seeing. Is it broke it? We're currently above it. There's a good possibility that we could close above it, where the bottom of this candle continues to come up here instead of closing right on the line. At the moment, it's still sloping upward, which is a good sign. And again, we've got to bring in the context of the market that quantitative easing is going to return, that SPY and gold are not done running yet. According to their charts, they look like they still have some room to run. So this is something that we don't want to ignore. But my base case is still that we're just going to chop for the next couple months, and then we're going to give it all back. I think there's a number of reasons why that's possible. For JP Morgan Chase to start offering loans on it, they really want to get as many people in as possible. They're starting that program now, and I think it's very similar to what happened in 2007, where in 2007 they were giving out mortgages like candy to anybody, regardless of their income. They would let them fucking get a mortgage on a second house, which makes no sense. They did that so that in 2008 and 2009, they could start taking those houses for pennies on the dollar from people who weren't able to continue to pay them. What I think they're doing now is they want to get people in on really good loans. Like, I don't know what the rates are. I haven't really looked into it myself, but say that they're offering crypto-backed loans for less than 10%, less than 5% APR is what you're going to pay. And you're someone who has a large stack of Bitcoin, or you have a large stack of IBIT and you trade it in kind for Bitcoin. Now, all of a sudden, if your cost basis is in this region, this 85 to 95K range, for the average person who is not overextended on their debt, it's not that big a deal for them to take out a loan and for them to watch the value of that loan go down, because they're not going to get margin called, because they have enough collateral and they are still making the payments on the loan. So there would be no reason why Chase would have to sell it in order to pay back the loan. But there are going to be some people who are overextended when they put the loan in here, and where it does get to a point where they can no longer make payments, or they're forced to sell a portion of it. And really, for the average person, it actually makes more sense for us to wait until price is down here to take out a loan with JP Morgan Chase, because at that time, say the Bitcoin is worth 50 or 60 grand at the time that you take the loan. It's not going to stay there for very long. It's going to stay there for a matter of days, possibly weeks, and then it's going to snap right back to up here, which means that the value of the loan that you took out was on $50,000 worth of Bitcoin, and the value of the Bitcoin in the loan becomes worth 80 or 100 grand once it comes back in this value. The amount that you borrowed does not change. It still stays relative to the amount that you borrowed, which I think most people should stay below a 40% LTV. For easier math, let's just say 50% LTV. So if you had 50K worth of Bitcoin in at the time when Bitcoin was about 50K, you took out a $25,000 loan against it, then the value of your Bitcoin would continue to go up, but the amount that you owe would stay the same, assuming that you're paying back the interest and everything. This is actually in the best interest of the customer. It's in the best interest of JP Morgan Chase that you take out the loan over here and start getting liquidated on it, so that they have to take the Bitcoin from you, which is very important. That's something that I think people need to remember moving forward, because the government's allowing you to pay your taxes with Bitcoin, which is stupid. You should not do that. I talk about this in the book. Literally every single corporation on the planet is going to try and find clever ways to take the Bitcoin out of your hands and to put it into their balance sheets. That's what they want. You got to remember that when you zoom out, that's what is actually happening. It's not just number go up, but, legally defined as property in the United States starts to rip. As of here, the CME can trade on it now. Starts to consolidate, and then it rips hard. Now there are NFTs. Now there are other altcoins. There are tens of thousands of altcoins at this point, and yet Bitcoin itself continues to rip. They can keep throwing things onto this narrative to try and make it more and more complex, but it's really not. As long as the government continues to print dollars, anything that is scarce and valuable will continue to go up forever. What is more scarce and valuable than a digitally scarce, permissionless, borderless payment system between people that holds its value if you hold it for more than 4 years, no matter whether you bought the top or the bottom. Even if you bought the top in 2021, you would be in profit right now. And now there's a good chance that we're going to dip back to those levels. But even if you bought on the worst days back then, you would still be in profit right now. You just have to be patient. So what are my actual price predictions? Like I said earlier in the video, I really think we're going to chop for December, January, and February, and are most likely going to drop after that point. Now, there's a good chance that we see something closer to over here. This is 2019. I believe that quantitative easing started somewhere around here. And as you can see, Bitcoin mostly chopped during that time period. And then obviously, COVID happened, and that's what caused that major dip. Otherwise, that major dip probably wouldn't have been as severe. As you can see up here, we recovered off of the monthly SMA and we're going higher. And it's really just the COVID dip that brought us right back below. And still recovered very well from that. So that's kind of what we're looking for now. Is our best case scenario is we get a little recovery and it just shoots up next year, even though we don't really have any precedent for that. The only precedent we have is right here. This is IBIT. IBIT exists as of right around here, and it's been number go up ever since. So they're probably going to want to keep the price somewhere around where IBIT originally started, which January 2024, that would have been, so price was about 42K. So 42K corresponds to about a $24 IBIT, it looks like. It's very unlikely to me that IBIT is going to want their price to go below like here. $40 roughly. What is it in March of 2024? March of 2024 is this guy. That's when we broke initially. That was the first time in history that we ever hit a new all-time high during the halving year. I think that was really significant. I think that that's something that we're going to need to pay attention to in the future. 73.8K roughly. I do think that we are going to tap that, possibly break below it, but I think that's really going to form a support that the market wants to respect as much as they can. That also ties into the MicroStrategy average cost, I believe, is right around there as well, 73, 74. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the market to try and drive price below then, but just as much demand trying to keep it above. But I do think that would be a couple months into this chop solidation. We're fighting to stay above the monthly SMA. We can't really say it's done until we start seeing this. When we start seeing closes below it, well below it, then we're cooked. It's done. Nothing to say. There's a possibility that this guy comes up to here, maybe even to here, but it's hard for me to believe it's going to close above where November started. Open at 109.5. I don't see it at the moment. I would love to see it. I don't see it at the moment, just as reflected in this chart. And I think it's much more likely that this pivot is going to be the make or break. I'll eat my words gladly if we show strength at 106.7. But I think we're going to spend the whole month trying to get to 106.7. And I think we're going to get rejected by it. It's possible that I'm wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. So my end of year price prediction for Bitcoin, which I'm changing for the first time really since 2022. I said the same numbers from 2022 to now. 130 to 150 was conservative. 180 to 210 was bullish. I currently think that I was about as close as I was going to get with this 126.2 or 3K being 5% off of 130. So I'm going to keep my original conservative estimate is where I think we already saw the top. I don't think we're going to see another top. And I think best case scenario is the price is probably going to close somewhere below 96K and above 80K. I know that's not what you wanted to hear at all, but that's okay. You're going to be all right. Bitcoin is an investing asset, not just a trading vehicle. A lot of times I talk about these levels for trades because that's just what is useful for people, but you really need to keep in the long-term perspective. Anytime we're below the monthly SMA is a great time to buy. Anytime. Over here, we're below the monthly SMA. Great time to buy. Over here, we're below the monthly SMA. Great time to buy. It's just how it is for every single circumstance where we have it. Whenever we break it, it's a great time to buy. Great time to buy. So that's all I can really say is you need to keep the historical context that anytime we're around the monthly SMA is a good time to add to your position. Does it mean that you FOMO an entire bag in at this moment that you need to pay for rent? No, obviously it does not. But that's the mode that I would be entered in personally, is starting to create a DCA plan during this time period and probably being very careful about how much money I put in leverage because everybody got liquidated over here because they were over leveraged. So it's very possible that we wiped out all that leverage so we can have the next leg up in the market. But I really wouldn't expect that leg to go higher than 130 or 150, at least for 2025. It's entirely possible we shoot past that once all of the stablecoins acts have been finalized. But I am of the opinion that Bitcoin is probably going to get bullied during that time period because on the other end of that, I do think it's going to rip. I think it's going to rip really hard. I just think that that's probably in 2027 and 2028 and not 2026. I think 2026, Bitcoin is going to be the punching bag most likely while SPY and gold keep ripping for a little while longer. Like that doesn't look like it's done. And that does not look like it's done. So that's all I have to say. I think for the next video, which I'm going to do on Friday, I'm going to instead do that in the morning. I think it's kind of hard for me to release these with any type of regular cadence in the middle of my workday, essentially. So I know people on Threads had voted for a end of day analysis is what they would prefer. Price closed at 93.4-ish today. But I think what I'm instead going to do is I'm going to drop a YouTube video right in the morning and just kind of explain everything that I think is going to happen during that day. And I'm going to see if you guys like those more over here on YouTube and go from there. That'll be easier for me. I wake up pretty early every day and I'm already checking the charts, so not a big deal for me just to kind of share my thoughts about the charts going into the day, and I hope that it is actionable for you. Like and subscribe. I probably should have said that earlier in the video. I keep forgetting to say that earlier in the video, and then I don't get as many likes or comments or subscribes. So yeah, that's it. I will see you on Friday.